Hello, and welcome to More to the Story. I'm Lucas Kitchen, and this is episode 7 in our special podcast series called The History of the Holy Land from Abraham to Hamas. If you'd like to take a look at previous episodes, whether in video or audio format, you can do that by going to freegrace.in. You can even get transcripts or get subscribed to see future episodes there. This episode is called The Land Laid Fallow. After looking at 2,000 years of Jewish dispersal from the land, we're now rewinding to explore what was happening in the Holy Land while the vast majority of Jews were living elsewhere. Here we go.
We've run the clock back to 70 AD. From this time of Roman rule and the destruction of the Second Temple to the modern struggle for statehood, this era encapsulates a turbulent journey for the people who called this land home.
In 70 AD, Roman forces laid siege to Jerusalem and tragically razed the Second Temple to the ground. This devastating event marked the end of Jewish sovereignty in the region. Not content with mere conquest, the Romans renamed the land Syria Palestina as a symbol of their authority.
Jewish resistance also marred this era, with the Bar Kokhba revolt from 132 to 135 AD being a notable example. However, the Romans brutally suppressed these uprisings and reinforced their dominance.
Under Roman rule, they remodeled the region to reflect Roman culture and administration. They established cities like Aelia Capitolina on the ruins of Jerusalem and invested in constructing extensive roads and infrastructure, facilitating trade and connectivity.
The Romans banned Jews from living in Jerusalem, but Jews continued to live in other parts of the land, including regions outside Jerusalem, such as the Galilee and other areas. Additionally, over the centuries, Jewish communities remained in various parts of what is now Israel, even if their numbers fluctuated.
During the Byzantine era, which spanned from the 4th to the 7th century AD, the Holy Land underwent another significant transformation. It became part of the Byzantine Empire after Emperor Constantine's conversion to Christianity.
This period saw Christianity rise to prominence, becoming the dominant religion. The region's landscape changed dramatically with the construction of numerous churches, and religious figures like St. Helena left their mark, promoting the faith and influencing its spread.
The Jewish community that remained in the land faced restrictions and discrimination, including a ban on residing in Jerusalem.
In 638 AD, Muslim forces led by Caliph Umar captured Jerusalem, marking the beginning of Muslim rule in the region. This period saw Jerusalem emerge as a vital religious and cultural center revered by Islam, Christianity, and Judaism.
Under the rule of the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates, Jews and Christians held a special status as people of the book, providing protection and certain rights.
During the 11th to the 13th centuries, the Holy Land witnessed the Crusader period when European crusaders came with the Pope's blessing. Among other iterations, these crusading Europeans established the Kingdom of Jerusalem.
Aiming to secure control over holy sites and territory, frequent and fierce battles between the Crusaders and the Muslim populations raged.
The Mamluks triumphed over the Crusaders in the 13th century. They were a military caste of Muslims. They governed the land until the 16th century, when the Ottomans took control under Ottoman rule.
The Ottoman Empire imposed difficult agricultural taxes. Among other items, landowners were taxed for the trees on their property. To reduce their tax burden, many landowners in Palestine would cut down trees, leading to deforestation and the neglect and degradation of the land.
This policy, along with others, had a significant impact on the agricultural productivity and overall health of the landscapes in the region, as it turned what was once fertile, low-lying land into unusable swamps and elevated arable land into barren stretches where little would grow.
There had been an unbroken line of Jewish farmers working on ancestral land for millennia. However, in the 1800s, under the rule of the Islamic Ottoman Empire, vast amounts of land were taken from the Jewish farmers who had worked it for generations and transferred ownership to absentee Arab elites in distant cities.
The Land Code of 1858 is an example of an Ottoman policy that resulted in the dispossession of many local farmers, mostly Jews, from regions such as Jerusalem and Hebron.
Regions rich in historical Jewish stewardship, such as the Galilee Plains and Jerusalem environs, went through a painful transformation. Once, vibrant olive groves, vineyards, and wheat fields that had been a testament to the diligent care of Jewish communities began to languish in neglect. The Hula Valley tragically degenerated into malaria-infested swamps.
In the early 1800s, the Islamic Empire imposed a tree tax, which led to widespread deforestation as landowners cut down trees to avoid taxation, further contributing to the environmental degradation of the land of Israel. Much of what had been fertile and lush was unfarmable by the end of the 1800s.
We'll be back with the history of the Holy Land after a short break, but first, this.
Join us for the Free Grace Kids podcast. Dive into fun-filled adventures with characters like Gus the grumpy squirrel, Beulah the sweet-hearted buffalo, and Madam Melody the musical moose. Each short and hilarious episode offers valuable lessons from the Bible, ensuring kids not only listen, but laugh along the way. Explore a world of joy, humor, and biblical wisdom. Find us and more delightful content for kids. Subscribe and listen at freegrace.in.
Eternal Rewards, It Will Pay to Obey, by Lucas Kitchen, a book that's changing minds about what eternity will be like. It has a strong 4.6 star rating on Amazon. Lucas takes you on an eye-opening journey through Christian theology, challenging old assumptions and bringing fresh, easy-to-understand insights. Forget the complicated jargon. This book speaks to you directly, making big ideas about heaven and obedience clear and compelling.
Before the break, we were talking about how the land had become desolate. Now we're going to turn to the population. So, let's get back to it.
Not only was the land turning into a wilderness, but it was also sparsely populated at this time. While there were pockets of communities in areas like Jerusalem, Jaffa, Hebron, and Safed, the overall population was very low.
In his 1867 work, The Innocents Abroad, visitors like Mark Twain depicted the area as a silent, mournful expanse of wilderness and desert, highlighting the emptiness and underdevelopment.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Zionist movement came to the forefront. This movement aimed to create a homeland for Jewish people in Palestine. As a result, there was a significant increase in Jewish immigration to the region.
By the early 1900s, Zionist organizations, such as the Jewish National Fund, legally purchased lands from wealthy Arab elites and began the arduous task of restoring their fertility.
In 1909, for instance, the arid land on which Tel Aviv now stands was purchased and developed. The Hula Valley, which had degenerated into a malarial swamp, was purchased and transformed into flourishing agricultural lands.
This process fostered improved living conditions and economic vitality lost for generations. Trade routes were revived, local markets flourished, and a spirit of innovation permeated from the Galilee's northern hills to the Negev's southern expanses.
The landscape began to change. When the Zionist immigrants arrived, they embarked on significant reforestation and land reclamation projects to reverse the damage and promote sustainable agricultural practices. The swamps and the wilderness slowly started to bloom.
Following World War I, the League of Nations gave Britain the responsibility of overseeing Palestine, known as the British Mandate, starting in 1920. During this time, tensions grew between the Jewish and Arab communities over issues like immigration and land ownership and who controlled the holy sites.
In August 1929, during the British Mandate in Palestine, tensions escalated over holy sites in Jerusalem, leading to the Hebron massacre. Arab rioters, fueled by rumors regarding Jewish intentions toward Jerusalem's sacred spaces, violently attacked the Jewish community in Hebron.
This assault resulted in the deaths of 67 Jews, with widespread looting and vandalism.
Following the violence, British authorities evacuated the surviving Jewish residents, effectively dismantling Hebron's ancient Jewish community until its later revival.
By 1947, it was estimated that about 1.2 million Arabs and about 700,000 Jews were co-inhabiting the land that would soon become Israel. The number of Jews in the land would soon climb into the millions as well.
In 1947, the United Nations came up with a plan to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The newly settled Jews accepted the offer, but the Palestinians refused it and insisted the Jews had no right to exist as a national entity in the land.
The internationally recognized State of Israel would introduce itself to the world the next year despite the Arabs' refusal. Among the celebration and excitement, war was coming.
The past century's struggle, conflicts, and aspirations laid the groundwork for the challenges and opportunities that continue to shape the modern state of Israel even today. And that is a topic that we'll delve into as we explore its contemporary history and the ongoing narratives that define this remarkable land in our next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of The History of the Holy Land from Abraham to Hamas, created by me, Lucas Kitchen, and produced by Free Grace International. If you'd like to take a look at previous episodes in video or audio format or get transcripts of this episode, you can do that and more by going to freegrace.in. Would you consider supporting our ministry? You can support by going to freegrace.in. You can also subscribe to get daily, weekly, or occasional updates through email. You can subscribe right there on the site by clicking the blue button that says, you guessed it, subscribe. You can also reach us through email, info@freegrace.in. Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to being back with you sometime soon.